Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to power techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is data governance, a key to success of enterprise BI program. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Kapil Sapra, General Manager, DWBI Group Pfizer of India. Kapil Sapra is heading DWBI Group in Pfizer of India for last 3 years. Prior to this, he has been part of Indian IT giants, working for various clients in North America and ASPAC region. In his 13 years of experience, he has co-architected large data warehouses for various clients. His specialization includes data governance, master data management, and data warehouse business intelligence. He is actively involved in various professional analytics engagements for Fiserv. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Mr. Sapra.
Hi guys, this is Kapil. So I'll be starting off this presentation on data governance, a key to success of any BI initiative in any enterprise. So I'll cover the following agenda today. I'll talk about what are the issues that are prevailing in current information world. From those issues, I'll take you to definition of data governance. We'll talk about data governance, what is the philosophy behind it. We'll talk about framework of data governance, how it should be designed. Also, I'll cover some core components of data governance, common pitfalls, and finally concluding my presentation with practical way of doing data governance in the organization. Coming to the first topic, issues in the information world. We keep hearing about these all the time in various magazines, seminars, wherever we go, that current information world is different than what it was a few years ago. The current information world, the data volumes are doubling every 6 to 8 months. So there is a huge volume that is there in terms of data in our daily lives. You see Facebook, you see Twitter, everywhere you go, you are generating a lot of data and you are consuming a lot of data. So pace, so the velocity at which information is consumed and generated is also increasing regularly. Third point is, all the big corporations, enterprises use various IBMS systems across multiple operating systems, right? So the amount of variety, the variety of information, some people are using Oracle with SQL Server, some are using Sybase and other kind of databases. So the variety of information is also doubling almost every few months. Disparate data sources. So data sources and the amount of data, the data are getting stored in Word documents, blogs, in terms of music files, WAV files. So the disparity in data sources and their updation and maintenance is also increasing day by day. This will because multiple versions of truths exist across the enterprise. So same data, the various people are doing it differently. So the multiple versions of truth exist for a data element in an enterprise. Difficulty in finding the right data at the right time for the right kind of thing. Difficulty in integrating operational data to analytics level reporting. So these are the issues currently in the information world. And if we go one level deeper, if we do a causal analysis, we'll find out how these issues can be categorized. So I'll come to my next slide. So cause-effect analysis. If we look at the causal analysis of all the problems I listed down in the first slide, we will see that unclear data ownership rules lie in lack of ownership, lack of consistency. That means there is a lot of data redundancy, multiple versions of truth exist, and project-driven approach results in disparate data definitions. Everybody pulls out certain piece of data and tries to define it as per the project. So it is not an enterprise-driven approach. And this results into lack of quality. Inconsistent and incomplete data across various tables, files, forms results into lack of data quality, lack of accessibility. So there is a heavy end user ID support, no standardized tools. This leads to not everybody has access to right set of information. And And that also leads to security breaches sometimes. There is a lack of security. Not every authorized person has authority to the right set of information, and vice versa. Some information which should be available to a person is not available. So no clarity on who has the right to update, view data. And lack in maintenance. So large, high IT maintenance and development costs. So this is also one of the root cause. So we can categorize them into 6. As you can see, lack of ownership, lack of consistency, quality, accessibility, security, and maintenance. And what this leads to is following risks in any organization. So you can see the risk on the right. So risks are using defective data in the very strategic planning for the organization. There is a risk of confidentiality breach. This can lead to a business continuity failure. This can result into a regulatory compliance issue. This can lead to a credibility issue of a company, not just the system. So this overall this leads to customer dissatisfaction. And we are into the BI world. We are all about getting business intelligence out of our system and driving business decisions. So if our credibility is not there, the credibility of the data is not there, then any enterprise level BI program is set up for failure. So that is why the topic of my presentation is data governance is key to success of any enterprise BI level program. Now just to draw the analogy from the real world into what is governance. We hear the term all the time, IT governance, this governance, Government of India governance. So, but to understand more what governance is about, we have drawn a real world example. How do we make decisions in our real world? We all live in our houses, which are part of a society. In every society, every occupant has a house. And every occupant has right to design the interiors of the house. But still there are common areas which need agreement from people. But everybody cannot sit together all the time to make those agreements. So we choose representatives. So the representatives are society heads or whatever who are authorized to make decisions about the common area. And all the occupants of the rest of the houses, they trust those people to make right decisions. At the same time, they expect to be informed of any changes, and they also need a forum so that they can raise a concern if they don't agree with the decision. All this, if we see in a combined fashion, we will notice that there are roles, responsibilities, rules, and processes that are available to manage a society. That is what is known as governance or formalized accountability. So that is what we have to bring to the data world or information world, where we have to think, how do we govern our data? Now let's look at one level below, the definition of data governance. What is philosophy behind it? So if you look at the dictionary meaning or Wikipedia definition of data governance, one liner says the development and integration of set of rules, policies, guidelines, standards for managing the organization's data. Two huge words, right? We'll slide them down as we move on in the presentation. So what data governance provides? So I will sit down on my left hand side. It provides interaction and communication paths. The most important thing is not everybody has to be a data expert, but we have to define policies, guidelines, and standards so that it provides communication paths and interactions to gather inputs, make decisions, resolve issues, escalate when necessary, implement changes, and communicate actions. If you remember the society example I gave you, where all we need is a communication path, where people know where to raise an issue, what decisions have to be communicated downwards, and they should be able to escalate whenever necessary. So this is exact analogy to the society example, which says data governance provides interaction and communication path for all of these. Now the difference between coming to the data world, it considers corporations' data as an asset. So every data element, no matter what definition it is in, no matter what value it has, it is an asset. So we have to treat it like an asset. We have to value the smallest piece of information, how it is being used, how it is being generated, how it is being transformed during the data life cycle. Data governance ensures, now coming to how it is to be implemented, so data governance has to ensure that appropriate people representing business, processes, data, and technology are involved in the decision that affects them. If you see, any decision around the data or infrastructure carrying the data is affecting either the business, the database team, or the technology team. So as the decisions are impacting them, so they should be the right people to represent the data governance. Coming to little deeper into data governance. So in our terminology, we define data governance into 4 major components. And if you see on the right hand side, it says data stewardship. Now, what is stewardship? If we again go to the dictionary meaning, stewardship is typically a term used in churches where people are entrusted with how to manage the funds of the church. So people trust these people. They may not be the expert, they may not be the best investors, but they are the people who society entrusts to manage the fund for them. Similarly, in data stewardship, this is making somebody formally accountable for managing the information on behalf of rest of the organizations. So data stewards are the people who are supposed to be managing the information on behalf of others and in the best interest of the organization. That is very important. Now data stewardship, establishment of data stewardship is one part. Now what do they do? Second part is data quality. They have to manage the data quality of the things. So every data has to be reliable, effective across the enterprise. So stewards don't have to take the view of the one application, they don't have to take view of one particular system, they have to take view of the entire organization. Coming to the third component, which is metadata management. Now, metadata management can be viewed as part of data quality, but it is so much huge in itself that it is separated out. Now, when we manage the data about the data, metadata by definition is data about the data. When we manage the data about the data, we are able to track how the lineage has changed, how the hierarchy has changed over a period of time, and that becomes very important when the enterprise has large BI initiatives. We'll cover a little more in detail as we move along the slides. The fourth component of this cycle, or the core component, is data security. Now, we are managing the metadata, which is data about the data. We are managing the quality. We have established the stewardship. The important point remaining still is one of the threats that we had was data security. So data has to be secured from unauthorized modification, destruction, disclosure, accidental or intentional. Sure. So these are the 4 core components of data governance. I'll come to data governance framework as we define it in any organization that is about to take a BI initiative or that already has BI initiatives running, but they want to start thinking about data governance, that they have to spend money, time into this. Everybody is doing governance in some or the other fashion, but it's just formalizing it, making somebody accountable for it. That is what is important. We think you guys have to keep in mind when we propose to anybody that we have to think of data governance. Okay. So data governance establishes the framework for better data management by implementing a strategy for continuous improvement. Now this is very important word, continuous improvement, because it is like a CMM level 5, where every day you are improving the quality of the data by putting common definitions, processes, and structure. So these 3 things become important: processes, definitions, and structure, thus enabling consistent view of the data across systems. Okay. So if we see the 3 main dimensions of this are data ownership, data stewardship, and data quality. We have put the 4th one, fixing roles and responsibilities. This is a horizontal that cuts across the dimensions, but still I have listed down here because this becomes very important when we are putting formally a data governance plan. So first step that we have to do is fixing of roles and responsibilities for data stewards, data owners, and data quality owners, data architects. We'll come to that. Then data ownership is very important. We have to identify business owners for each data entity. Data stewardship is assigning individuals responsible for quality of a particular entity. As I explained, steward is the person designated to ensure quality of a particular entity. And data quality is increasing the quality of data through cleansing efforts and building a repeatable process of the cleansing. So this is the data governance framework, as you can see, and no framework can stand on its own without three things: people, process, and technology. So if you see at the bottom, the foundation component is people, process, and technology. Now, getting into a little deeper into the terms I used in the previous slide, fixing roles and responsibilities. Now, typical roles and responsibilities is what I'm going to talk about based on, again, the experience in implementing data governance framework in various organizations in the past. The topmost role which we have to take into account is executive leadership. So data governance cannot, initiatives like data governance cannot run on its own. There has to be a sponsorship. There has to be top management agreeing to data governance initiative. And top management has to define the strategy and goals for governance. Now, why I'm saying there is not blanket statement that I want zero defect. No, it is not like that. At the start of the year or at the start of the data governance establishment, somebody has to decide that how much governance I need. They have to define a charter for data governance, and that is done by executive leadership. And they are supposed to fund the overall data governance initiative. Second set of people, and this is not a hierarchy, these are people independent. This is not a hierarchical fashion. So second people are data owners. So data owners are the people who own accountable for data entities under them. Typical example is, say, customer data. Customer data is very, very, very important in any organization. Now, typically, customer data owners are the people who are either sales people who are supposed to talk to the customers and prospects. So, head of sales will become a data owner for customer data or prospect data in this example. And this may not be true. I'm just saying it as an example. This may not be true in all organizations. The third set of people are core technical people. So they are like data administrators, DBA folks who are responsible for defining the data architecture, how the information is going to flow across systems. They are supposed to define the data standards, that what are the standards they need, what are the kind of repositories, what are the tools, what are the kind of databases that are needed. So these are the third set of people who are down at that level, who understand what are the right technology, right database mix for doing this particular kind of a work. Fourth set of people that are important in governance framework are data stewards. Now, data stewards, as I mentioned earlier, these can be or these have to be from three areas: business, application, and IT. So a person known as a business steward, he understands business side of things. When we say steward is responsible for data quality, data governance of a particular data item, so there has to be a representation from business because that person understands business. Then second set of such people have to be application stewards who understands what kind of applications are being developed, what business rules in those applications exist, and when a new application gets developed, they can give suggestions that, okay, for this application we need this kind of data, so where is the best way to get it? So application representation is very important in a data steward community. The third set of people are IT stewards. Now IT stewards or quality stewards, they are also known as quality stewards. So basically they are responsible for processes and procedures to ensure quality of data, metrics, key performance indicators. So all the quality folks, so there has to be representation from quality department of the company, which are known as IT stewards or quality stewards. The last set is user community, who is supposed to use the data. So any kind of requirement, a new requirement, there is a new application that is getting set up, so users need those 10 reports. Now those 10 reports, users have to tell that, okay, I need a report to show how many claims got processed last year for this particular type of insurance. So the requirement has to come from end users, and then the data owners have to decide whether the data is present or not, and then data stewards have to say what is the best way to get the data. And data administrators have to define the infrastructure so as to get the data from the right system of record. Probably that example will explain why these roles are necessary. Coming to this slide is probably similar slide to the last slide, but only thing here is it just defines what kind of people constitute those groups. So executive sponsorship, the people you have to include is CXOs. Either he has to be a CIO, CFO, CTO. So those people who can fund the entire initiative, as well as who can define the mission and vision, as well as the one-line statement that says this is what I want to do with data governance in my organization. Strategic data governance. Now here people are data owners typically. So strategic data governance is all the line of business heads, function heads. As I mentioned, the person has to be head of sales, who understand, the sales data, who understands prospect data. So strategic data governance, the people are from line of business function heads. And tactical data governance are the people who will attend the meetings regularly, who will not come like once a month kind of deal, who will attend weekly meetings, who will set priorities, assign tasks, ensure compliance standards, who will be dedicated for that particular activity as part of their KRA or whatever, as part of their goal for the year. These are the people who are going to spend time on it, day in, day out, for the data governance. And execution is done by data stewards and data architects. How to identify data steward is a major challenge in many companies. Wherever I worked in US companies, the main thing is that people assign data stewards, but the clear definition of roles and responsibilities is missing. Or sometimes they identify a participant who is too busy with hundreds of things, and data governance becomes a very secondary or tertiary kind of job for them, and that is where all the big initiatives fail. So here we have listed down how to identify participants for data governance stewardship kind of roles. Stewardship role, because that becomes the most important role, as he is the person accountable for ensuring data governance. So these are the points for identifying participants. So discover your data stewards, do not hire them. Classic mistake which people do is, when a new role comes, they go for hiring. Let's get a new person on board because everybody is busy with this current work. So data steward cannot be a new person who joins your company and he starts understanding your data and behavior and business and all that. He has to be from within the company who understands a particular line of business and data related to that. Avoid the tendency to put in people who are not experienced. Again, classic mistake done by people who think that anybody can do it. All this is required is go to meetings and talk about data. Then unexperienced people fail in this kind of initiative. Avoid having those participating in governance part-time role. So if you make governance as part-time, that always becomes no time. And look for a logical representation. It may not be a name, it may be a set of 3-4 people among which any one of them can attend from that particular group. Like the company I was in, we were implementing data governance. From the mainframes group, from where the data was supposed to come from claims department, we had three people, and there's a logical representation. Either of them can come for the meeting. So logical representation is more important than the actual physical person. Key questions you can ask yourself while identifying the participants. What is the motivation for individuals to participate in the governance? What will they get from participating? What will they give to participate? Do they have support from their managers? Now this becomes very important because their managers have to assign dedicated time for doing the data governance work. Is the work with governance acknowledged and rewarded by their managers? In addition to responsibility, do they have the authority? Sometimes all we give them is a responsibility and we do not authorize them to represent their areas. So in our case, the example from mainframe claim system, the person is responsible for data stewardship, but if he is not authorized to make changes to the COBOL programs, or he is not authorized to tell somebody that this is doing wrong, we are not doing the right way of things, then there is no use. So the person should be authorized also to tell what are the right ways to take care of data quality and other things we are going to talk about. So design your data governance structure with the titles and the levels that work for your company and fit your company culture. And that is the bottom line. So every company has its own culture, every company has its own titles. So when I said CXO, that doesn't mean it has to be CXO. It has to be top leadership who can fund the project. Coming to the very important section and second section of the core components, that is data quality. So data stewardship was first section. Second section is data quality. What is quality? If we have to look for the definition, quality is conformance to requirements. That's it. Quality is not necessarily zero defects. That is an important point, because when we define the charter of data governance, we have to define what is the level of quality we want to achieve by doing these initiatives and how much money we are ready to put in for achieving that quality. Sometimes to achieve the 20% of the quality takes 80% of the money. So is it worth it? Is it not? That every organization has to decide. So quality is conformance to requirements. What degree we have to decide. And coming to what we think is the quality characteristics. So quality characteristics again can be divided into 4 broad categories. So business rules, all the definitions, relationships, domain, level of detail has to be perfect for saying that this is a good quality data. Now we are talking only about the data quality. So business rules have to be perfectly coded. So that is the first part. All the entities, when we talk about the database structures, all the hierarchies, sets, subsets, parent-child relationships have to be perfectly defined. Then we say data is of good quality. All the individual elements, now for each individual element, its status or its numerical value, the accuracy becomes very important. Accuracy, if it is accurate, means it's a good quality. It's complete. It's a good quality. Uniqueness. So there cannot be 2 columns called status and one saying status as dead or alive and one saying status as 0 or 1. Not possible. So if it is there, it's bad quality. So that's why we say uniqueness of any item becomes part of the data quality. Precision. We have to make sure that every element status codes are 0, 1, 2, 3, then it has to be 0, 1, 2, 3. If 4 is coming, then it is not precise for a particular scenario. So precision is very important. Timeliness, time to obtain the data, value distribution. It becomes very important part of data quality. How do we know value distribution? Is through data profile. Also, for related entities, as we mentioned, related entities, we have to look for related elements. We have to look for referential integrity, consistency with business context, consistency when it is repeated in multiple tables. If same column is repeated in multiple tables, that means it is redundant, but still it has to be consistent. Existence, non-existence for related elements. If some element is not existing, then it has to be properly defined. What is not existing? Just I put down 2 quotes from famous magazines. The Wayne Edson, who is director of research at TWI, he says TWI estimates that poor quality customer data costs US business a staggering $611 billion a year in postage, printing, and staff overhead. So you can see in our information world, the data quality is such a huge problem. The second quote is from Mike Whitehorn. He is a business intelligence editor in Server Management magazine. He says, projects don't fail for technical reasons. They fail on the issues that human ought to be able to resolve and don't. Issues like data quality, etc., etc. So data quality is one of the key things any top person mentions as the issues in the information world. The challenges. If you look at the challenges that data quality has, in any organization you can bucket them in any of the sections that are mentioned in this slide. So data quality challenges could be raised because of responsibility, because no single person is responsible for enterprise data. Every business unit talks about the quality for its own business unit only. They don't look at the enterprise view of how the data quality has to be increased. Once captured in operational system, business unit washes hand of further responsibility. That is another key problem. I'm sure all of you on the call might have witnessed this problem in your work life. Savvy corporations adopt data stewardship approach. So responsibility can be taken care of by stewardship approach that I've already mentioned. Cross functionality. So because many organizations are matrix organizations. There is horizontals and there are verticals, and horizontals are not aligned to verticals. So that is why the data management function is spread across boundaries. And that is where data stewardship and representation from right sections of the organization becomes very important. But all these problems can fall under cross-functionality category. Problem recognition. Most of the organizations don't think they have a data management problem. They think everything is going perfectly fine. So companies are in denial mode. It's a psychological issue probably, but that's an issue. Digital. Corporations don't define and assign responsibilities. They don't have formal procedures. Investment. They don't want to put money on such an important thing like data quality. They put money on new projects, new initiatives, new BI work, new analytics work, everything. But nobody has time, funding and resources for improving the quality of existing data which is present in the organization. Also, they don't realize that it's an ongoing effort. This is not one time. You don't set up data governance program once and give it a timeline that, I want to start it on January and finish by June. It does not happen like that. This is not one-time effort. Governance is the name of the game. Governance has to continue throughout the life cycle. And the money has to go into governance as a continuous effort. So, benefit. Now, how do you measure the benefit of this thing is by vice versa. I mean, the opposite way. You measure the cost of unquality. You see, if the quality is not good, how much extra cost I am occurring because of the bad data. How do you determine the benefits? This becomes an important thing for stewards, that how do they determine the benefits, the tangible benefits that will come out of data quality initiatives. So few best practices is what I have listed here, and they may not be in any particular order, but these best practices are again based on experience and books and other things. So I'll go over them one by one, really slow here, because this is a very important slide, I would say, in the presentation. The first very important point is we have to get the right sponsorship in the organization for data quality initiative. We have to seek the support of senior management and identify right data stewards. Right? We have to strive to define the reference data management. Now, reference data management is same as master data management, a little more than master data management. So, reference data management structure at the organization level has to be defined. Efficient reference data management structure contributes significantly to data quality. Define data monitoring process. Now, that is where the continuity comes into picture. You can put the quality, but post data quality implementation, unless you define measures to monitor the data quality regularly, all the initiatives are bound to fail. So that is why there has to be set of processes to monitor the data quality ongoing basis. Strive to address the data quality at the active level and passive level. So what I mean by that is, active level means at the source level itself, because the data is getting originated. The best way is to catch the defect when it gets at the start, at the root itself. So the best way is where the data is getting originated, there itself the quality issues are captured and addressed. And passive level is during the data integration, when the data is going into other systems, downflowing into the downstream system, or getting integrated with other systems within the company, then you can address the data quality issues. So both the levels, active level as well as the passive level, the data quality issues have to be addressed. Ensure extensive business involvement. So IT companies tend to do technical stuff and they don't involve business to come at data validation rules. So if it is a company having its own IT, the business validation becomes very, very important. Say it's a bank, then validation from teller or the people working in the bank at every step becomes very, very important of the data profiling. Establish feedback mechanism. Now, if you are designing a data warehouse for running the BI initiatives in your company, then a data warehouse has to have a feedback mechanism to the source system in case the quality levels drop. And it has to be an automated feedback level. So it has to be a control mechanism built in, where if the quality drops, say number of zeros encountered for a particular field increased by a certain threshold, then there has to be a trigger that goes to the source and mentions or puts the report, or exception report that says that quality has decreased in terms of source system. Data certification portal. Now, there has to be a central place for business to navigate through the rejected records. Now, this becomes very important in data warehouse and business intelligence initiatives, where when we're loading the data for first time, all the bad quality data gets rejected. Now, how do you correct that? So, to bring the data quality into it, there has to be a portal which is supposed to be accessed by business people, so that they can say why that record got rejected and what are the measures to correct it. The last is perform proactive data quality audits. So there has to be a team. So in addition to all the technology, all the infrastructure, all the processes in place, there has to be a process in which manually people should go and do the data quality audits on the data warehouse on periodic basis. The periodicity can be decided based on the organization. It can be weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever. Last one is there. Identify data sets with most of uncovered business rules and data quality issues and develop a proof of concept around the same. So this should be at the start, I think. So the particular data set where you foresee maximum data quality issues, that should be the first low-hanging fruit that you should target for doing the proof of concept for improving the data quality and showing it to the business users. Coming to the second topic, which is data security. So data security becomes a very important component after the two components, data stewardship and data quality. Data security, the first point I've written, who it helps. So it helps obviously the data stewards. So if the data security is there, then data stewards can apply data governance more effectively. And it helps business users. How it helps? So if there is an integrated security architecture, so by integrated security architecture, I mean that security of all the different products is concentrated in one place rather than being spread across multiple systems. So that is what I mean by integrated security architecture. So if it is integrated security architecture, the auditing becomes easier. It reduces the maintenance overhead for the operations team. And also the people who are responsible for the security, they can clearly define the control on access as well as user licenses. Now security doesn't apply only on the data, but also on the assets. Anything that is asset, so that becomes IT security. Under data security, we are talking only about the data security. How to build data security? There is a process model and there is an approach. Under process model, there are two steps. The first one is discovery. Discovery, what do you discover under the process model for data security? You classify data, you survey business functions, you define employee risk profile, survey system functions, and define business to system map. So the mapping will ensure that you will know what are the people who are supposed to access what kind of information. And the outcome will be, in addition to the security rules, you will be able to discover a lot of risks because every employee has a risk profile. How do you mitigate those risks? So that is the second step of the process model. You refine access control. You audit system as well as the application. So central infrastructure system or data has to be audited as well as individual applications. There has to be a training plan developed for people at various levels for data security. And there has to be a contingency plan developed in case there is a security breach. So the outcome is mitigation strategy. Approach. The approach, I think I've told you one, that is build a secure admin portal. The purpose is it will control access to all the BI tools, all the reporting tools, there has to be a central portal to control access to all the tools. Security layer of all the BI tools should be integrated in this portal. And in this portal itself, there has to be a LDAP or some mechanism to profile users and build hierarchies based on access needs. So all the kind of security in the organization has to be controlled through a central portal. And the plans have to be defined to restrict access based on analytical profile of the users. What kind of analysis they would need, what kind of reports they would need. And we have to build security at all the levels: report level, tool level, database level. All the three areas provide the data or BI or analytics to the end users. Okay. And there has to be a security policy. Now, security policy definition becomes very important part of data governance charter. Security policy has to comprise of following functional components that addresses access control, risk assessment, how will you monitor the security, who is accountable for the security, what will happen in case of incident, and how do you handle the exceptions, how do you make it transparent to the customer, how do you educate the users about the security, how do you profile the new profiles coming to you in case of security. What are the best practices for security, and how will you ensure consistency in coverage across the organization? So there has to be a security policy, data security policy at the organization level to take care of these table of content or these items. The last and the final fourth component of this presentation is metadata management. Now, metadata we all understand is data about the data. Now, why its management becomes very important is because metadata management environment. So we have to create a metadata management environment whenever we are doing a BI initiative or creating a data warehouse, because that helps track, monitor and record changes to the data as well as documents. And its function is to provide the technical architecture and processes in order to manage corporate knowledge and governance. All data standards and policies. So even the standards that we set for the governance program also fall under metadata management. So even the policies, the data security policy that we define, that also becomes a candidate on which we have to do metadata management. The charter of governance itself becomes an asset to which metadata management has to be done. It allows organization to understand all these things. It allows organization to understand what are the sources of the data, what are the definitions. Now that's the biggest problem in any industry, that the definitions have changed over the years. The definition has been modified over the years by different business units for their business needs. So that is why it becomes very important to manage the metadata for the organization, because the new person joining needs to understand the definitions and how it has been evolved. How that particular thing is being used and what is the relevance of that use in the organization becomes very important. So metadata is the only component in this 4-component box that is responsible for driving the cost per asset as low as possible. If the same data, metadata is not managed properly, then same data gets repeated and sometimes duplicated, and there is no way to find out what gets duplicated. So the cost per asset increases. So if proper metadata management is responsible for driving cost per asset as low as possible. What is metadata management architecture? Now this is a science in itself, that there are tools available in the market which are responsible for doing metadata management. And now these tools, the metadata management applications, some people believe in homegrown applications using SharePoint or using portals that sit on top of the data warehouse. So any kind of data warehouse, if you see in this diagram, these are all transactional systems feeding through the ETL process into a central repository, and then there is a data mart process, a standard data warehouse initiative But here there is a metadata derivation process that is sitting on top of the data warehouse. This becomes very, very important because it brings following benefits. When there is a metadata management process, both data and metadata integrity is ensured. There is one version of truth for all kind of data as well as metadata. There is synergy in processing data and metadata together. There is less process to maintain in both extraction and data mart creation. So we are extracting metadata in addition to the data from source systems, then the processes to be used are less. So data that has no transactional source system can be collected in a similar fashion, stored and backed up in the DW. Now one of the small advantage of metadata management process sitting on data warehouses that there are some files where there is no source available, they have to be fed directly to the data warehouse. So even the metadata definition for those files for which there is no source system available also gets captured somewhere and can be tracked and monitored for its lifetime. There is a drill back capability. So all the analytic users can view the transactional data in the data warehouse. So if we have the metadata management process defined, they can view to the level of the data definitions, all the analytical users, so that becomes another benefit for the organization. And users can manage their own metadata. So if definition is changing over the years and somebody wants to change it, that happens at a one central place, and any kind of report, any kind of analytic initiative will tell you how the definition has changed. The 5 Ms of metadata, I'll go really quick because I think we're running out of time. So the 5 Ms of metadata are meaningful, mature, manageable, maintainable, and migratable. So metadata has to be meaningful, it has to be appropriate and adequate. So appropriate in terms of consumption point of view, adequate in terms of creation and storage point of view. It should be mature. So it should have been collected over time and how the definitions have changed. It should have preserved all the heritage and lineage of the metadata. It should be manageable. So the manageable in terms of, it has to be designed that what should be storage media, what is its capacity, how it can be scalable, what is the ease of use, how do you browse the metadata. Now I mentioned SharePoint as one of the metadata management tools. So there are some companies have made browsers or portals on top of it through which metadata can be browsed. Maintainable. So the metadata has to be maintainable, there has to be versioning defined, there has to be algorithm defined, there has to be a refresh process for maintaining the metadata. It should be migratable. So migratable I mean it should be shareable, it should be shareable to a new technology or new metadata management tool, it should be portable to a new hardware as well as the software. So these are the key 5 Ms of metadata that we have to keep in mind. Coming to the second last slide, common pitfalls in data governance. So all the data governance initiatives do not succeed because of these things. So beware of these things, that's why I have listed them out here. Lack of accountability and strategic participation. So that is the biggest pitfall. Lack of data standardization across IT infrastructure. Lack of awareness of business value of the data. Failure to manage data quality early in the data governance process. So we have to start addressing data quality as one of the key items at the start of data governance process. Cross-divisional issues. So in all the companies there are, ego problems and those kind of things between various departments. So that can lead to sometimes failures of big initiatives like data governance. And failure to recognize specific KPIs. Now this becomes very important because at the start when I said that data governance has to have a charter, in charter itself we have to define specific measures on which we want to measure data governance as well as data quality as well as metadata management and the data security. Lack of compliance monitoring. So there is no regulatory body that does the manual check. So that is cause of failure. And lack of training and awareness. So when we are running the data governance program, in the charter itself, we have to put how will we train people and how do we make people aware of data governance policies. So conclusion is the last slide. At the core of effective data governance lies right stewardship and governance model. data quality, data security, metadata management, which helps companies to be confident of the information they publish and attest to in their financial statements and various compliance activities is complete, accurate, and timely. So that pretty much covers what I have to cover in data governance. That should be very essential and integral part of any BI initiative. So I thank you. So in case of any questions, please feel free to ask.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation, Mr. Sapra. We have a few questions from our attendees. I've already assigned those questions to you. I hope you're able to see them.
I'm trying to, okay. Okay. Very interesting question. So I'll start from the top. Mr. Imran has asked, what is the difference between data owners and data stewards? So data owners are the people who are at the level of say business unit head, or who represent a particular line of business. For example, it's an insurance company, then, or any financial company you can say, then the claims department is separate. There has to be a representation from claims department. So any kind of claim data, there has to be a data owner to make a decision about, okay, this is what we want to do. This is the quality we want to adhere to. And data stewards are the people who work for data owners, and they interact with data owners regularly to find out how it is to be implemented. So what part is done by data owners, how part is done by data stewards. If that answers your question. Moving to the next. Would not it be partially correct if quality is not judged on the basis of zero defect? Well, when we say zero defect, it is true for probably application environment, but when we say about initiatives like BI programs, where we are getting the data for analytics kinds of needs, like we are collecting 5 years worth of data and we have to draw the business insight out of it, say in terms of, okay, how do you cross-sell a particular product to a particular customer, right? Now, if you have to cross-sell a particular product, all you need is the analysis over last 1 or 2 years that what is the kind of customer who is likely to buy this kind of a product. Now, even if the data correction is say 90% accurate, then also you are fine because you can draw that conclusion. So there is a lot of statistics, there is a lot of, so in a typical real-time kind of an application, zero defect probably is the right word, but in a BI or analytics environment, we have to define what level of quality we need. Coming to the next question. Slide 15, what do you mean by domain of valid values? I have to go back to that, so I'll probably answer it later. The next question is from Garima Tripathi. She says, does your organization follows data governance? I will say every organization follows data governance, but important thing is, do they put emphasis on the formalization of that structure? In some form or the other, our organization has a group called Enterprise Risk and Resilience. They are responsible for data security. They do data security trainings. They do all kind of data security seminars. So yes, so we do data governance for grade level. But there is other thing like, do we take care of the data redundancy? Probably not to the greatest level, but are there efforts spent in that direction? Yes. So data governance is definitely there in our organization, but the maturity level may not be topmost, but in some areas it may be topmost also. I hope that answers your question. And that kind of covers the questions I have. Any other question? Then please feel free, otherwise. So slide 15, somebody asked a question. I'll go to that last question maybe. Okay. Before I go there, I'll okay. So I'll come to that. Before that, there is another question from Prashant Bashish. He says, how relevant data governance is in consulting firms rather than in a product-based organization? Prashant, data governance is important in all kinds of organizations, and I'll help you understand. So if you're working in a company which is a consulting firm, say TCS, Infosys, Cognizant, whatever, then there is a lot of employee data. There is a lot of data about the projects. There is a lot of data about the billing. There is a lot of data about the HR. So there also data governance is necessary. The kind of data may vary based on the organizations. The kind of consumers may vary. The kind of data stewards may vary. The kind of data owners may vary. But still, it is very important that every organization has to have data governance in some form or the other. Okay. Okay, Shashank Srivastava had asked, data governance is more likely a functional aspect of the business and not technical. What do you expect a technical person to do with little authority on functional things? Shashank, I don't 100% agree that it's a functional aspect. It's a combination of functional as well as technical. So as I was explaining the various roles, if you see there is a data architect role. So data architect is a pure technical role, and I'll come to that slide. And yeah, so data administrator slash architect. So data architect is a person who is responsible for technically implementing the stuff. So there may be decision making bodies, maybe data owners and data stewards, but technical persons have to physically implement those. Like data quality cleansing. So data cleansing has to be implemented, and it has to be physically implemented by the technical folks. And there can be technical glitches also which are causing data quality issues. It may not be always caused by a functional discrepancy. So technical glitches also lead to a lot of data quality issues, like referential integrity, for example. If there is a referential integrity problem, it's a technical problem, it's not a business problem. Okay. Coming to Irfan as how it helps in data migration. What are the benefits to DBA? Data migration, so if you see any data migration project that you work on, or if you have worked on, the major issues are data quality and major issues are finding out right people to map the data from old system to new system. And if you deeply analyze these two issues, one of the issues can be addressed had the previous organization has data governance or data quality initiatives in place. The quality of data is very good in the previous organization or previous system from which you are migrating, then the data migration project gets helped. Now DBA, it gets helped if there is metadata management. So metadata management is most of the time DBA struggle with issues like redundant data. Most of the time DBA issue with storage capacity or some disk getting full. So those kind of things occur because there is a lot of schemas that get duplicated. So if there is a data governance audit, then those duplicate schemas can be removed. Those duplicate entities can be removed. Duplicate columns can be removed. So that is how it helps DBA. How do we deal with risk management in data governance? Ashwini Tiwari has asked. Risk management, I don't understand what you mean by risk management here, but if you're talking about quality risk, security risk and metadata risk, I think those three kind of risks are handled in data governance as I explained in my presentations. But if you're asking about some other kind of risk, I don't understand that. If you're talking about my slide number 2, then all the risks that I mentioned there, they are either the data quality risk or they are data, yeah. So if you see lack of ownership, it can be handled through data stewardship. Lack of consistency, it can be handled through the data, give me one second, the metadata management. Lack of quality management. Lack of maintenance, metadata management. Lack of security, security management. Lack of accessibility, again security management. So any other question? So if you have any other question, please send it to moderator. I think I'm kind of done here. Neha, are you there?
Assigned you some more questions. Can you see them?
Oh yeah, just now it came. Okay. Questions from Gaurav Yadav. It is enabling flow of information among multiple IT systems. How to ensure data governance is not affecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. How to ensure data governance is not acting as an obstacle in the information flow. So data governance cannot act as obstacle in the information flow because we are not building any controls or systems to obstruct the flow. In fact, we are channelizing our resources, and again they are top resources, as you understand. So these top resources are not affecting the confidentiality of the information, definitely, and they are sitting and discussing what are the best processes, tools to be put into place to make sure that data is more secure. And when we say portal, that is just a way to make centralized way of managing the security. Metadata management through metadata management application. Data quality is through set of processes as well as tools which are available. So they definitely enhance the integrity and confidentiality and availability of the information, and they don't obstruct it. Upendra has asked the question, what is career path for data governance consultancy? If companies are recognized putting on investment on data governance initiatives. I'm not sure I can answer that. See, every company has to have a data governance as a function, and by consultancy, you can give it in-house consulting as well as to external companies. If your company is into consulting business, then definitely it's a viable business and it's a profitable business. If you understand the concept really well, you can help organizations define data governance policies, rules, and you can help them architect the entire program. That's what I've done in the previous organization. Okay. How do you make business case for data governance? How can ROI be estimated for a data governance initiative? This is asked by Sai Krishan Mohan. Typically, when organizations are going for BI initiatives, so they are at various level of maturity in terms of data. If the organization is mature, they know the BI program, they know what data warehouses and all that, then they usually understand that some kind of data governance is required. Or other way around is the data quality assessment is the best way of showing that what are the issues, and data audits for metadata and data security becomes other way of showing the relevance and importance of data governance. So how I did in one of the financial institutions in US was we did a data quality assessment for their existing DWBI infrastructure, and the results of assessment showed them that there are a lot of things they can improve upon, and when they asked for suggestions, our first suggestion was to implement data governance emphasizing on data quality. One of the questions is asked by Abhinav Mishra. How could we control metric definition keep on changing by business like utilization? What should be the placeholder for this control? Should I propose this in IT demand management process. Utilization is not captured in demand management process. Utilization is another KPI that has to be, if it is changing by the business, then that has to be tracked in terms of metadata management. So utilization has to be defined, and if it is redefined, then it has to be tracked and it has to be entered that what is that I want to achieve. Like productivity is another such thing which keeps changing. Now productivity earlier was being captured by function points. Now function point is not much in use. Now productivity is measured by use cases and stories. So in your organization, in every organization, these kind of fuzzy parameters have to be defined. Then only they can be tracked, monitored, and controlled via data governance process. What Prashant Vishish is asking, what all type of strategic reporting can be done in a typical healthcare area using big data governance? Just want to tell, and I don't know what is the right way to answer this in this forum, but big data is not related to data governance. That's what I would say. So big data is a different concept, and data governance is a different concept altogether. Okay, Gaurav Yadav has asked another question. How challenging is it to establish data governance as a practice among employees of a company? Any pointers in this regard you can suggest? Yeah, Gaurav, it is very challenging. A short line answer, but again, it's a habit rather than a imposition. So it has to come into the DNA of the company, I would say. So it starts from the top. So once the CXO or CIO gets convinced that this is what I want to do, like in our company, as I was telling, that data security is something we focus on very, very, very diligently. In our company, everybody has to go through a particular security awareness quiz every quarterly, which keeps getting updated. Now that quiz, people go through and they have to take a printout of that answers and the certification, and they have to put it as an oath to their machines that this is what we are going to comply. So this has come into the DNA of the company. But again, as I mentioned at the start of the session, that this has to be supported and championed is the right word, by CXO of the companies. It cannot be started at a business unit or department level. I hope that answers your question. So, any other question, Neha?
Well, those were the only questions we had, Mr. Sapra. Thank you so much for answering them. I hope our users got insights into their questions. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the session would be available on techgig.com by today evening. You can listen to the recording on the webinar page. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Neha.